So imagine what happens in America when one Bitcoin is 10 decades worth of income. You know, you're like, oh, we don't have to work on anything we don't want to work on, or we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. And now we can, decide, hey, I actually want to go volunteer as a firefighter instead of working a job I don't like. One, financially, I think the price is going much higher. Two, I think it's going to invite bad actors eventually. Everyone's like, yeah, Bitcoin to $1 million. Do you have enough Bitcoin to celebrate when it gets to $1 million? Why would you get rid of X, Y, and Z? I'm like, because I don't value it anymore. I value my health, my wealth, and my family. I don't think that a lot of these companies pivoting into Bitcoin actually understand Bitcoin. I think that they understand that there's opportunity for a lot of people with a lot of Bitcoin or a lot of wealth to buy their stock. Don't look at it like I'm going to use more Bitcoin to get more fiat. No, you need more Bitcoin. So every time I talk to you, every time I come and you invite me on this podcast, best believe I'll have more Bitcoin than I did the last time.
Hi, Chris. Wealth Squad, Chris. Happy to have you, and happy to have you on again.
What's up, man? So we were just saying it's been a year.
It's been a year. It's been kind of an amazing year if you think about it. Like what all happened the past year is kind of crazy, and we've kind of been always optimistic on Bitcoin, but honestly, the last year, just in terms of like news and what's been happening, and then we can talk about all of those things today. But it really is fascinating how far we've already come.
Yeah, exactly. So in the last time we recorded, Bitcoin was $65,000. It's $111,000 right now. We hit an all-time high of 126. So I mean, from 65,000 to now is a 70% increase. So Bitcoiners, I'm sure, are loving that. If you got a significant amount of your net worth in Bitcoin, you got 70% wealthier. Or another way to look at it is life got 70% cheaper.
I like that perspective a lot more. Like I love denominating things in Bitcoin. Like if you all of a sudden like denominate everything, like your real estate, your grocery things, your rent, everything in Bitcoin, you're like, oh yeah, like every month it gets a little cheaper.
Yep. I say this a lot. Like, if you want life to get more affordable, just stack in Bitcoin. You'll sit back and watch everything fall, and you're like, I can buy more of it now, So when Bitcoin doubles, is really everything got half off.
Was there something that shocked you, something that like surprised you over the past few months or the past year?
You know what surprised me? What I think about is, I don't think people own Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoiners own Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoiners own Bitcoin. I think a lot of people did own Bitcoin and then they sold at 100,000, right? Because what I really think, do you know who a Sim is on Twitter? Big crypto guy?
No, Sim.
Yeah, he's a big crypto guy. Like maybe he has like 500,000 or million followers. He did a poll saying like what percentage of your portfolio is in Bitcoin, and 53% of it was zero, right? So what I truly think is, I think a lot of people either try to rotate into alts, like being greedy because Bitcoin, I guess, isn't moving fast enough for them, or I don't know. I think people sold thinking this is the top and letting a lot of the chatter get to them. I think sometimes people get in this is too good to be true type of mentality. You could come in here, son. It's too good to be true or something like that. So that's one thing that surprises me. And another thing that surprises me is how many people are playing fiat games, right? So, when Jerome Powell speaks and everyone's like, oh, he should cut rates even more, or they should do this and you should do this. And then I kind of sit back and I think, this is the chairman of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is creating all these problems for us. And now we're saying like, hey, Mr. Chairman, please do this for us. Please do that. No, bro, Bitcoin doesn't care. And I'm a Bitcoin. I don't care what he does. Like it might delay the process, speed up a process a little bit, but we know the outcome. We know what's going to happen. We know people are going to call BS on the system, and Bitcoin's going much higher. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised by like how many fiat games people are playing. And then also like, I really think some people sold their Bitcoin, man.
Yeah. And it's hard to see. Because if you think about it, like even if you bought Bitcoin at like 5 or 10 grand, and now you've seen your Bitcoin going up like 10x or 20x or anything like that over the past, let's say 5 years, because that's what kind of happened in Bitcoin in the past 5 years. like obviously, like if you want to buy your like the home that you always wanted to have, or like the car that you always wanted to have, you like live life, like obviously do that. But selling Bitcoin like completely, or like going out and saying like, hey, I want to have that faster horse, I want to be greedy and like want to have even more, that's just like a stupid trade. And Bitcoin, this is such an easy trade, and I think that's why people like almost don't want to do it, because it's such an easy thing of like, you buy Bitcoin and you just hold it.
Yeah, that's
Like
it.
it sounds too simple to be true.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because you remember, like on our last talk, I was saying like, oh, I used to wake up and look for stocks to trade, and now I just go water my grass. And at first, when I started like operating like that, it almost felt like I wasn't doing enough, because when you're playing the little fiat games, you think you need to have 85 different businesses. You think you need to have, 85 different trades. You need to have all these things going on. But in reality, you're like, you create wealth, you create value for people, whether that's, creating a business or working for a business and helping them out. You create the value, then you store the value. And it's that simple. Create value, store value, create value, store value. And the fiat games kind of have you thinking you're not doing enough. Or what happens is people start thinking, I want the faster horse, right? So then they jump on to the next thing. So an analogy that I was thinking about is like, if you tell someone, hey, I want to go from California to New York, right? Or for the European followers, if you want to go from Berlin to London, I want to get there the fastest, but the safest. We'll say the safest first and then the fastest second. And then the Bitcoiners are like, okay, take the orange car. And then you're like, I don't like the orange car. I'm going to take the red car. You're like, bro, we're trying to give you the answer to get there the safest and the fastest. But some people want to go even faster, and they're willing to compromise on, the safety. So, yeah, I think sometimes people get caught being short-sighted, but like you said, this is the easiest trade to make. And if you do want to achieve your goals of, buying this or buying that, or even just growing your wealth, so then you have less pressure on you from the world to go out and make more money, or the cost of living's catching up with you. Like, we're telling you the orange car is the way to go, but don't take our word for it. Go do the research, go do the knowledge, and I hope people are actually doing it.
It sometimes feels like people are kind of punishing themselves without really knowing it. Like they're thinking it's too easy. Like it has to be more complicated, and that's why they follow like all those like trading things and like all those like very complex systems and models. And then it's like, yeah, you just like, you get, of course you have to do your research, like getting Bitcoin and understanding what Bitcoin is there is like not like something that you can do within an hour. You have to dig a little deeper. You have to like understand what's where Bitcoin is coming from. But from that moment onward, you're like, okay, yeah, I understood it. I know where it's going, and I just like hold it. And I think it's human nature is so hard to like just like do nothing and sit back, let the grass grow, and just watch it grow.
Yeah, yeah. What I like to think is, once you get it and you understand and you free up your time from all the other things, like a dog chasing cars, you go work on the next aspect of your life. So if you use Bitcoin as like the foundation, like, hey, all my financial worries are going to be taken care of because I'm storing a good percentage of my wealth into Bitcoin, and that becomes the bottom layer. And then the next layer, like for me, was to go get my health right. Like, okay, I have this free time. I understand Bitcoin thoroughly. I don't spend as much time researching as I used to, because for the last 3 years, I'm like, this is all I'm learning about. And then eventually you catch on, you get it, you understand what's going on, you see the full playbook, and then you're like, all right, well, when I get paid, I'm buying more Bitcoin, and I'm not going to sell it. So that just becomes like the everyday part of your life, and it becomes, like a consistent or a constant in your world, like the same way you step on the ground, it's not going to sink. Like, that's not something you think about. That's the way I feel about Bitcoin. So then that becomes the bottom layer of your life, and then you build the next layer. The next layer could be another interest that you have. Like I said, for me, it was, let me go get my health right now. So all the time that I would spend doing other things, man, Bitcoin just gave me the reassurance. And for the people watching this, I hope you guys take this message and also embrace the same thing. Once you've done your research, once you understand what's going on, then you free up all your time and you go solve the next problem in your life. Like, this is a major problem, like your wealth, money, all that. That's a major topic in your life, but there are others. And Bitcoin allows you to free up your time to, spend more time with your family or go get your health right, or maybe go learn something else that you're interested in.
I want to pull that tweet up. I found it really interesting, and it's a very simple idea that you posted here, but I think it's very powerful. And then you posted here: the wealthiest man in the world, I own Bitcoin. The founder of the largest asset management company in the world, I own Bitcoin. Founders of the largest hedge funds, I own Bitcoin. Co-founder of the largest company, I own Bitcoin. And then dude barely finished 12th grade. It's like Bitcoin is a scam. And you also mentioned like Elon Musk, Larry Fink, Ray Dalio, Steve Wozniak, like all those people. And it's kind of fascinating for me. And that's also like how I see it. Is like there's so many proofs that Bitcoin is a real thing, that Bitcoin is just right now getting started and really filling those pockets of money. And there are so many people saying like, oh, it's the scam, like it's bad for the environment, like all those crap things. First of all, like, how would you describe the kind of like situation that Bitcoin currently is in? And then it's like, where do you think is the dissonance coming from people that just still say really stupid stuff about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin is a scam?
So, all right. So I was thinking about that tweet because, Elon recently tweeted about Bitcoin. Every blue moon, he tweets about Bitcoin. And what I'm thinking is like, okay, Elon most realistically is going to be the world's first trillionaire, right? But at $500 billion, there's something bigger than him going on, and he knows it, right? Like so to us, if you're just a little individual person, then $500 billion seems like a lot of money, but he understands why we have the problems, right? Which is the Federal Reserve, right? You're like, we have these central banks and they're creating these problems, even the commercial banks, creating these problems, and somebody who's that wealthy who doesn't have to worry about this still is able to spot it, or the people who co-founded the largest companies in the world or the largest hedge funds, they're still much smaller than the issue at hand, which is the central banks and commercial banks pumping the economy with money. So that's what I was thinking about when I tweeted that. I'm like, man, this is crazy because you can have all the money in the world and it's still very obvious that you're not big enough to solve this problem. This is my son, Seven, by the way. I think he wants to hang out with us. Say hey, Seven.
Hey.
So,
how are you doing?
Huh?
He said, how are you doing?
I'm still with my papa.
No, he said, how are you doing? Now, what are you doing? How are you?
Nothing. I'm 6 years old.
Seven, calm down. How are you doing? Are you good? Are you not good?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. So, I think he's a little nervous, but yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of crazy that the smartest people in the world, or some of the smartest people, some of the biggest founders, are like, hey, what's going on with the economy? We need to look into something, and then they eventually arrive at Bitcoin. Now, why I think the average person doesn't is because they're not going to take any time to study, right? And it kind of sounds harsh in a way, but everything that you have or everything you don't have is exactly where you need to be. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're in a good position because you studied Bitcoin, you deserve it. And if you're not, and you're just going to sit back and blame everything and everybody, then you kind of deserve it too, So I think it's like intellectually lazy to just go, oh, this is a scam. Like, okay, explain to me how it works. You can't, but it's a scam, right? So I think there's a lot of intellectually lazy people out there who don't want it to be true, because then that will kind of justify them missing out on they think they missed out on the action, right? So I think that's kind of where my head was when I was tweeting that. And I'm like, man, there's so many people that sit in my comments and say, oh, like you got lucky or this is a scam, and I'm like, you can't explain to me how this works, but somebody has to make the fries. That's the way the economy works. You know what I mean? Like somebody's got to make the fries, bro. It's going to be you because you don't want to understand this thing. You don't want to open a book. So be it.
And this is, I mean, this goes way beyond Bitcoin, where I'm thinking like, why are most people in the line where most people are, and then just a few people are stepping outside, and they're saying like, oh, they're questioning the mainstream narrative. They're questioning like, oh, like, why do I have to like go this specific route? Why can I not do my own company? Why can I not like invest in Bitcoin? Why can I not do all those different things that are kind of seen as bad from the mainstream media? And like, for me, it was always so clear. But then when I look into like my friend circle, even, my friend circle is kind of entrepreneurial, but like a little bit outside of like the second order friends, I like to call them, or like just like, associates that like are kind of associated to me. I'm like, wow, like they have a very different, worldview, and their worldview is basically what they have been told. And then I'm like, how can you just take something for granted someone else is telling you? And the funny thing that always happens if someone is like, oh, like Bitcoin is a scam, or like Bitcoin is so bad for the environment. If you ask them 2 or 3 questions, they completely blank out because they haven't done their own research. So their opinion is very weak. And so they very fast come to the conclusion, oh, like, I don't have any clue. And then they panic and like they get emotional and like all of that. But it's mind bending for me, like why people don't go deeper. Why don't people actually question their like things? And I mean, with Wealth Squad and with like wealth in general, and with making companies and all of that, it's like, it's not just a Bitcoin thing. It's with everything that makes you successful in life, I guess.
Yeah. I think a part of it, one, like as a Bitcoiner, I actually I don't value everyone's opinion the same. You know, like Marcus Aurelius has this quote. It's like the opinion of 10,000 men means nothing if they don't understand the subject, or something like that. Right. And you're like, what ends up happening is there's a bunch of people in your ear trying to like give your opinions. And you're like, well, you haven't done the work. Right. And I think that's what happens in a lot of people's friend circles, is that you know, your friend that you grew up might give you a quick opinion, and you go, well, this guy thinks this and I think he's pretty smart, so let me just take his word for it. But the thing is, you have to peel back the layers yourself. You know, like you have to peel back the layers yourself. And, you know, I say pretty like commonly, like, don't take my word for any of this stuff. You know, like even when I read Bitcoin books, I go look up the information. I'm like, okay, is this true? Is this right? You know, like even if they source it, and you just start peeling back layers and peeling back layers. But I think in general, there's always going to be people who just, it's just laziness. It's intellectual laziness. That's what it is, man. It's, some people can't fold their clothes in their house. You know, some people just don't want to learn anything. It's intellectual laziness. But the sad part is, this is the solution. Bitcoin is this humongous ride to safety, right? And the more you ignore it, the further away that boat gets. So imagine Bitcoin's this humongous boat, and you're like, hey, this is taking us to safety. If you ignore the boat, it gets further away from you, which means it gets harder for you to catch up to the boat, right? So in like financial terms, let's say there's a family out there watching this that they have a combined income of $100,000 a year, and they're able to put $20,000 away into investments. And our last episode, Bitcoin was $65,000. So that would be, if Bitcoin stayed flat at that rate, that would be 3 years of their income just to get to the boat, right? But let's say they were ignoring the boat, and now 12 months later, it's at we're floating between 110 and 120. That's 6 years of income now, right? So the moment that you realize like, hey, this is what's going on, the boat is much further, right? So I think that like kind of hurts people a lot. And another thing is, while you're on this gigantic, beautiful, peaceful boat, there are people who jump off the boat to go play on jet skis, you know, and those are the altcoin people. Those are the people who want to, you know, go in and out of positions, trade, do all these things. And from the boat, it looks fun. You're like, oh, these people are making money very fast. They have the faster horse. But what happens when the jet ski runs out of water and the boat's further away? You know, so it's almost like, hey, if you do the knowledge, you'll realize this is the ride to safety, right? So how we were saying when this podcast started, that if Bitcoin is now at 110, 120,000, like, hey, that means it's getting harder for you to buy it. That means your flight to safety is just getting further and further and further away from you. And mainly it's because, people are too lazy to acknowledge it. But what's going to happen is when the moment clicks that you're like, whoa, I should have been looked into this, or maybe I should have been looked into central banking, or maybe I should have been looked into why gold bugs are gold bugs. Like you could kind of start in different areas and you're going to end up with the same conclusion, which is Bitcoin. But that boat is going to be so far, man. And it's intellectual laziness, man. I really wish people would just open a book.
I love that comparison. Like, it's really, really cool. I always make the comparison that Bitcoin kind of came from being a speedboat to an aircraft carrier, but extending it to now it's an aircraft carrier. It's like a huge boat where you can be on. It's super safe. And then people are jumping off that secure aircraft carrier just because the jet ski looks cooler.
Yep.
And they don't realize that.
Yep. Yep. And you see this on social media a lot, especially like right after our last interview, October 2024, a lot of meme coins. This is when the whole meme coin thing got like hot, right? And me as a Bitcoiner, I'm telling people, hey, stay away from that, stay away from that, stay away from that. But imagine if someone posts that they put $200 into this thing and now it's worth $10,000. And I'm over here like, hey, just put your Bitcoin in, your $200 in a Bitcoin and just keep that going. The casino looks way more fun. Right. So what ends up happening is people are like, oh, okay, well, let me do that. If you turn $300 into 10 grand, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is you're not going to see when that 10 grand or 7 grand, whatever number I said, goes back down to zero. They're not going to post it. It's like you get hot and then you fall off and then people are just stay quiet about all their losses. So when the meme coin thing happened right after our last episode, and you're like, that's people playing on the jet skis. You know what I mean? Like we have the safest, fastest route. So if you say you want to go where you say you want to go, take the orange car, take the orange boat. But that people get distracted with that. I'm starting to think that people are getting distracted with Bitcoin treasury companies too, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, I also think so. Like I see, weirdly enough, a lot of different comparisons with altcoins and treasury companies, even though there are a lot of differences. Obviously,
Yep.
like you cannot compare like a strategy to an Ethereum, like not at all.
Yeah.
But like just from the community and from the vibe, like I get a lot of the similar things from that, even though like it's obviously a different thing. But what do you mean with like getting distracted by them?
So you have the major treasury companies, right? Like your MicroStrategies, your Meta Planets. Those two companies specifically are positioned very uniquely, right? Where they can raise capital, buy more Bitcoin. But I think what ends up happening is you see some small companies say, hey, we're going to hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And then the stock shoots up and then nothing happens. So people are like, oh, well, this is BS. Or they speculate on GameStop or whatever the case is. And then it shoots up. And then I think the people who call themselves Bitcoiner, if you want to speculate, I'm not telling you not to speculate, but if you want to speculate, you have to understand, you have to see these things through. So if a company announces something and then the stock doesn't move for 3 months and you're done. So it's not necessarily that the treasury companies are the meme coins. It's that the Bitcoiners are treating them like they're the meme coins. Like, hey, if this doesn't move, I'm out. Or MicroStrategy went down $100, I'm out. And you're like, hey, man, like this is, I think you want the gains from the circus over here, I also think another part of this whole treasury thing is I don't think that a lot of these companies pivoting into Bitcoin actually understand Bitcoin. I think that they understand that there's opportunity for a lot of people with a lot of Bitcoin or a lot of wealth to buy their stock. And I don't think they necessarily understand Bitcoin itself. And then they just bring on some popular person from social media to be on their board of directors. And hopefully that works out, So if you're going to speculate a little bit, but majority of your wealth needs to be in Bitcoin, itself.
100%, I agree with that. And you mentioned that family example, which I absolutely love, with they're making 20K or they're making 100K and saving 20K, and it takes them, if they want to get to full Bitcoin a year ago, it takes them 3 years, and now it takes them kind of like 5-6 years, and it probably takes them longer because Bitcoin will do more in the future and probably outruns your salary or like your income. Why one Bitcoin? Well, is there a special like importance for you to like get to one Bitcoin?
Yeah. So we kind of talked about this last time, but I think it shows where your priorities are. Right? Like I think it shows where your priorities are. So if money is the physical manifest of your time, your energy, your effort, your intelligence, your integrity, all these things sum up to become your money. And then you take the sum of all these things and then you go shopping. But you say you want to build wealth, or you say you want to, leave a legacy for your children, or you say you want to buy your family a home because you guys never owned a home. So I think it's reasonable to tell people, hey, get to one Bitcoin. I don't care what you have to do, especially if you live in the Western world. If you're in Europe or, North America, you can make it happen. So I think one, it shows that, hey, I'm making this a priority, and I'm going to say, when you vote with your money and you take your fiat and buy Bitcoin, you're saying, hey, I'm tired of the system. I'm tired of them being able to press a few buttons and make me poor, And another thing is, it's because, okay, I'm from California, right? So we'll say the average house out there is like $600,000, maybe $650,000. But in the early 90s in Los Angeles, you could have bought an $80,000, $90,000 house. Or in the 80s, you could have bought an $80,000, $90,000 house, right? So for everyone who didn't buy that, their children have to pay nearly 10 times as much, right? I tell people to go get to one Bitcoin because their children are not going to be able to. And I'm certain about that, right? So my son here is 6 years old. 12 years from now, I can't tell him go get one Bitcoin. 12 years from now, a Bitcoin might be $6 million, $7 million, $10 million. You get what I'm saying? So you making it a priority to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do right here, right now, for myself, for my family, for those who come after me, for everybody I care about, because one day getting to one Bitcoin is not going to be possible. It's not for the average person, or not probably for 99% of the entire population. It's not going to be possible. Can you imagine, the people in Ethiopia, right? When Bitcoin was $250, let's say somebody out there knew about it, and they don't make that much money every year. Let's say the rural parts of Ethiopia, they don't make that much money every year, but they're like, hey, I'm going to get to one Bitcoin because my children won't have an opportunity to do it, right? And now that we're at $110,000, when you convert that into their currency, they were right. It's impossible. What's their average wage? Convert that to dollars or to euros, and you think they can afford it's going to be the same thing for us. When Bitcoin's $3 million and you had an opportunity to buy one whole one for 20 grand, for 50 grand, for 100 grand, and I know that people in the West can get there because we spend so much money on cars. The cars are my enemy right now. We spend so much money on cars that you're like, okay, don't get me wrong, you have to have reliable transportation, but a lot of these middle class families have 2-3 car payments, $800 a piece, and you're like, hey, this car is going this way, and this whole new financial system is going this way. So one, it's going to be impossible in the near future. Two, it's going to be for sure impossible for your children. And if you don't have children yet, that means 18 years at minimum from now. If your child is born tomorrow, 18 years minimum from now, they're going to start working. They're going to say, hey, let me get some sats. And they're going to be buying into a $15 million Bitcoin, and you could have already looked out for them, and there's so many different aspects to wealth, and defense is one of them, right? So if you can ensure that you and your family can afford to defend yourself, and when I say defend yourself, I could mean lawyers, or I could mean doing things that would compromise your integrity for money, or I could mean that, hey, your daughter's boss is treating you poorly, and she comes to you and say, hey, Dad, I'm having these issues, and you're like, well, you got to suck it up, even though he's harassing you because you need money. Like, no, bro, like this is. You start to buy the freedom for yourself and for the people that you love and care about, so they don't have to go through those everyday stresses of life. And that will become so much easier if you take the Bitcoin route.
That's super interesting. I just looked it up because I was curious. The average monthly salary in Ethiopia is 7,000 Ethiopian birr, which is about $55, which is crazy if you think about that. Like, what's the average wage in the USA? Like 5,000, like 3,000? I have no clue.
Wait, are you saying per month? Was in Ethiopia, was that per month or per year?
Per month, $55 is per month.
Yeah, so imagine telling someone, "Hey, get to one Bitcoin. It's 55. You make $55 a year, and your path to safety, one whole Bitcoin, which I don't know last time it was $55, but look how far away it's ran from the fiat currency of your country's choice. It will happen with the euro. It will happen with the dollar. It will happen with every fiat currency.
The average US salary, by the way, is 6,200 apparently. At least that's what Google is spitting out for me. So that's like over 100x more. That's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I mean, most Americans are giving a third of that to the car dealerships. but yeah, like just think about it. Like, how many years of labor is it going to take you to be able to buy one Bitcoin, right? It's only going to continue to grow, which also means that if you have one Bitcoin, when Bitcoin goes from, it used to be 1 week. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Bitcoin used to be an hour's worth of labor for you to get one. Then it became a week's worth of labor. And then it became a month's worth of labor. Then it became a year's worth of labor, right? So if the average salary for American households like $55,000, $60,000, we're looking at 2 years of labor. That's if you can put 100% of your income into Bitcoin, right? 2 years of labor, right? Now, on the opposite side, if you have one Bitcoin and you absolutely needed to sell it, which I don't recommend, but if you absolutely need to sell it, you've bought yourself 2 years of like some type of, like cushion. Now imagine when Bitcoin goes to 1 decade's worth of labor, right? 1 decade worth of labor might be the next 3 years. So you look at your time and you say, hey, I want to be able to stretch the quantity of how much time I have to myself or for my family as far as possible. So imagine what happens in America when 1 Bitcoin is 10 decades worth of income. You're like, oh, we don't have to work on anything we don't want to work on, or we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. And now we can, decide, hey, I actually want to go volunteer as a firefighter instead of working a job I don't like. It just gives you options. It gives you freedom, but that safety boat is getting further and further away.
The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use simplemining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. Yeah, it's super interesting when you think about like how many hours you have to work on average to like get to a Bitcoin. And actually like, it is something that I'm currently looking at because like I currently, I owned a car like 3-4 years ago. And then I moved to the city, because my girlfriend works here. And now I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't need a car. And then I got rid of it. And so since 2 years, I'm completely carless. And I have this weird thing of like, I really want to own a car. But I don't need it. And then it's like, I absolutely 100% don't need it. And when I need it, I can just rent it for like a day or 2 days. And then it's cost me like, for that 2 days, maybe $100 or $200. Like it's nothing, compared to the cost of ownership a car. And then I'm like, but I really want to own a car. But then I was like, I will lose so many Satoshis, which I will never get back. And like, why, I'm thinking of, okay, down the road, I probably need a car someday when I move out a little bit outside of the city. When I have a family, when I have like a little girl or little boy, then I want to have a car and I want to provide that safety. Why don't I mentally put my Bitcoin there to that place and put it into the future? Because right now it would just be for joy. And I'm like, oh, I have so much joy anyways in my life. Like, why do I need that? And so as a Bitcoiner, you always have those arguments in you of like, why would I spend my Satoshis on that? And it's really healthy, I think, in the long run, because you learn to actually just get the things that you really need and really give you joy, and not just like, oh yeah, it's fun for like a day or maybe a week or like a month to have the car. And then you're like, yeah, okay, it's a car. Like it gives me from A to B. Okay, I don't really need it.
Yep, it's called the hedonic adjustment. Everything that's new to you, that's really exciting, it eventually just becomes normal. You know, like I bought my house, I thought this was the coolest thing in the world, and now I'm like, this is my house. The cars, you know, I'm selling a bunch of my cars actually, and they were the coolest things in the world. And you're like, man, it's just a car, you know. And what I think was cool about Bitcoin is it gives you that like, man, I have what I need, you know, like. I have what I need. I don't need any more than what I have. And I find a lot of peace in knowing my future is taken care of, you know? So and you're right. If you part ways with your Satoshis and you go try to get it back, that car that might have cost you, I don't know, 10,000 euro, that's going to be a 100,000 euro car in a few years, but it's only going to be worth 1,000 euros. You know, so the opportunity cost is way too high. You know, don't get me wrong. If you need a car, go get a car. But if you don't need one, like, and if you live in a city center like you do, like, who cares, man? Just go enjoy it, you know? So, for the Americans watching this, I mean, in America, you kind of need a car, but you don't need the most expensive one. You know, you don't need the most expensive one. You don't need the flashiest one. And trust me, you guys, I'm put up some really cool cars for sale to buy more Satoshis. You know, I'm down to my last 3 cars. You know, I started with 8. I started with 8 rental properties and started with 8 cars. I'm down to 3. I'm waiting on the title for my Lamborghini. That's gone. I need more Bitcoin. You know, like if I can get 2.5 Bitcoin for my Lamborghini, and when Bitcoin hits $1 million, that's not a $2.5 million car. That car is going to be worth $100,000 by then. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't need it. Like I drive it, you know, every once in a while. I look at everything through opportunity cost, you know? So, yeah, good on you, because one day you are going to get a car. You know, your family's going to expand. But until then, do your thing, man.
2.5 Bitcoin will buy you a dealership or like maybe Lamborghini itself one day.
Yeah, I always think about that. I'm like, the one thing that I do want in the future is a big ranch. You know, like a big ranch. And when I see these ranches that I want, they're like $10 million, $20 million. And I just think, I'm like, I'll give you 3 Bitcoin for that. Like, we'll wait for the Bitcoin price to catch up, but I'll give you 3 Bitcoin for that ranch. Or maybe I won't even give you, man, I'll just borrow against my Bitcoin and give you, you know, your fiat, whatever you want. But yeah, I always think about that. I'm like, it'll be cheap. One day you're gonna beg me for 3 Bitcoin, and I'm gonna take your 1,000 acres of land. So it's fair.
How do you actually look at like owning a home, owning your ranch or like your home where you live in versus renting, especially if you like consider the opportunity cost of both of them?
So I used to be back when I was a Fiat guy. I used to be make a purchase on your home, own it outright, pay your property taxes, go on about your life, right? But now the opportunity cost that I understand is way too high to do that, right? Your best bet now is to make as little of a down payment as you can, take that lump sum that you were going to put down, buy Bitcoin, and then make your monthly payments if you wanted to own a house. I'm personally starting to realize that owning a house ain't that important to me. Like having somewhere to live is important to me, but owning a house isn't that important, So whether you own or you rent, you're going to take some of your income, pay, for you to lay your head somewhere. But now I just look at everything different, man. I look at everything like, do you want to store your wealth in a house? No, it's just somewhere to live. Do you want to store your wealth in a car? No, as long as it gets you from point A to point B safely. Like you don't want to be a cheapskate and get a car that breaks down the middle of the road. But I'm not storing my wealth here, so I'm selling the car. I'm not storing my wealth in my house. I'm selling the house. So think one, if you are going to buy, like you go the get a loan route, because if you get a 4 or 5% interest, Bitcoin's going to smoke that. Bitcoin's going to smoke 4 or 5% return every year, so go that route. Or if not, just rent, you just rent and stack your Bitcoin. So, I don't lean either way too much about whether you buy or rent. But what I will say is, one, obviously, like I made the mistake of paying cash for homes, and I won't do that again, because I just buy some orange coins. And two, like, man, just find something that works for you, that's sustainable, and stack up in Bitcoin.
Do you actually get, I was just thinking about, do you actually get comments from like families and close friends of saying like, oh, like, do you have financial troubles because I see you selling all your like cars and stuff?
Man, my mom asked my sister if I was going broke. My sister said, you realize he's the wealthiest he's ever been right now? But, my mom doesn't understand. She doesn't understand like finance. She doesn't understand Bitcoin. She's just like, but in the community that I belong to, man, like you get a Mercedes and it's like you won the lottery. You know what I mean? Like it's that's what poverty does to your mind. And so what happens is when someone's selling their Mercedes, it looks like they're giving away their trophy. They don't see it as just a car. You understand? Like my mom doesn't see it as, oh, it's just a car. He has a lot of them, right? My mom's like, oh, what's going on? Hey, son, are you okay? I'm like, mom, I put her up and, put her in the house or whatever. I'm like, your bills are paid. Just leave me alone, like, but my sister had to explain to her, like, yeah, he's wealthier than he's ever been. But yeah, it happens a lot where people are like, oh, like, why would you get rid of X, Y, and Z? I'm like, because I don't value it anymore. I value my health, my wealth, and my family.
It also comes with work, I guess. Like having 8 cars, like you have to keep up with all the like the payments. You have to keep up with like all the like maintenance and everything.
It's annoying, bro. It's annoying, and it's annoying. And one of the craziest things is, okay, so 2018, 2019. This is when like Teslas were like the cool thing. Like if you've seen a Tesla on the road, you're like, whoa, that's cool, right? And I took a cashier's check for $60,000 and I went and bought that damn Tesla, right? Imagine if Bitcoin was, I don't know, $6,000 back then. If I would have bought 10 Bitcoin instead, 10 Bitcoin's worth $1.1 million right now, right? So when I look at this stupid Tesla sitting in my garage that I have not driven in years, I'm like, damn, that shit cost me $1 million, man. Like it's probably worth at this point, I paid 60 for it. It's probably worth 15, 20 grand at max, but the opportunity cost was $1 million. You know what I mean? And I wish somebody would have sat me down and said, hey, read this book. Cause I got Bitcoin back then, but I thought it was just another thing you keep in your portfolio. Like you have your Tesla stock, you have your Apple stock, you have a little bit of Bitcoin. Like, no, I didn't see the bigger picture, and yeah, like paying for maintenance, paying for all, you're like, bro, these are just fiat games and these banks are creating like all these ways to get access to this cheap money. So then you just stay in the system and you stay in the loop and you stay needing them, and it keeps you on that paycheck to paycheck route when you could be living like project to project or inspiration to inspiration. Like the other side of paycheck to paycheck is, hey, I have a great idea and me and my friend want to work on this because we can help a lot of people, or we can help a lot of businesses, or we can do this. And we're just going to go from when we feel inspired, we're going to create a project and then move on to the next project when we're done or whatever. But you can't even get there when all your money or all your paychecks is tied into like material things, So you're like, it kind of starts to drain you spiritually because you're like, man, I have ideas that I want to launch and I have things I want to do. And I have, like I have some ideas and I can figure out how to help the world, like, with whatever my talents are, but I can't because I'm stuck in this rat race, and it kind of drains you. And I think that's why a lot of people end up not working in their purpose and stuff. And you're like, well, if someone just dangles some like shiny objects in front of your face, and then now you're giving up all your wealth or your future wealth or your potential happiness, because you would have found happiness in building projects and stuff like that. Like, like I started to look at it like that, man. I start to realize like the financial journey is spiritual.
It's a lot more fulfilling if you're fully in control of what you're doing. I've started going down that rabbit hole like 1.5 years ago, where like, and since then I'm just doing the podcast, doing some businesses, and like not being employed anymore. That completely changed for me of how I look at living life. And it's like, before that, I was actually concerned of like, oh, how do I retire? How much do I have to save? And now retirement is not even like something I don't even think about that anymore. I'm like, yeah, like if I can just do that, what I currently do till the day I die, like I'm fine.
Yep. I'm just gonna like spread knowledge, create, launch things, connect with people. Like Warren Buffett's 92 years old. He's still doing what he loves. I'm like, I hope that's me, like I hope that's me. But instead of like, I don't call it work. I just live. I just exist, but in my existence is intertwined with my labor, and it becomes a labor of love. And then you don't even think about it like work. I just woke up today and I'm going to go do everything that I'm going to do and help some people out and, tweak this over here, but I'm just living my life. And I'm glad that you are getting to that point, or you've got to that point where you can stop worrying about the future, and you're like, hey, I'm just existing and I don't feel the anxiety of trying to, I need X amount to retire, or I need this, I need that. Like, I'm just gonna exist and hang out and help people and spread knowledge. This is very cool for you.
I'm still on my journey. I'm like, just from like being employed, thinking about like the savings rate and all of that, and just going to like, oh, if I just work on my passions, if I just work on the project that I currently think is the best thing I can do with my time, I actually get paid more.
Yeah.
Like, I was worried to like even scrape by, and it was like, oh, you just do like something that you really like, and you like do something that you're really passionate about it, and you find something where other people are willing to pay you for that. You're like, oh wow, like that's freaking amazing. And the worries kind of go away. But I'm definitely still on my journey to wherever you are currently.
It's a beautiful journey though. So I'm happy for you, man, and I'm glad that you're making these moves, because you start seeing life from a different perspective. You see, bro, I'm telling you, I see everything different. Like then let's say how I grew up, or even back when I was in the army. Like I just see everything different. Like it's almost like things slow down. That's a good way to put it. I feel like things slow down in a way, where everything isn't an emergency. Everything isn't rushed. Everything is like my sibling. I have 7 siblings. They always tell me like, man, you drive slow. You drive slow. Every time they're in the car with me, you drive so slow. I'm like, I don't have nowhere to go. Like I'm not in a rush to go anywhere. Like think about like how some people will speed to work, and you're like, man, you might lose your life trying to hurry up and get to that job. Like those are things we don't even think about, because all we're thinking about is, I'm going to be late. Let me hurry up, And then when life slows down, you say, I'm not risking my life to, show up 2 minutes. Like, yeah, right. My life's way more valuable. Things just slow down. Like I feel the same way. Like I was saying, I've been on the health journey. I feel the same way about like eating candy and junk food and stuff like that. I'm like, now I just need something to eat. I just need something to eat. And now I'm like, I'm not putting that in my body. Like I'm not just about to just load my body with all this candy, bro. I was eating candy to go to sleep, you know? And as life just slows down, you just start making better decisions, and, you know, everything becomes, quality over quantity. And that's the path that as you keep going, you're going to hit it. And you're like, damn, this is what Chris was talking about. Just everything slows down for you.
And you have been working on your health. I think I saw some gym pics on Twitter, and you've been on a kind of journey.
Yep.
How's been like what kind of triggered that, and like how's been the journey?
Getting out of a Lamborghini with a gut. I'm like, this is kind of hustling. You know, sometimes on Twitter I talk about what's hustling backwards. You know, like, oh, you spend more money on your car than you do buying Bitcoin. You're hustling backwards. I'm like, getting out of an expensive car with a body that you're stuck with for the rest of your life, and that's worn down, but your car is in pristine condition. That's hustling backwards, you know? Or like, now when I take off my shirt in front of my son, he's like, "Ooh la la, papa," you know? And I'm like, this is cool, you know, like, cause that was my dad to me, you know? I'm like, damn, my dad has muscles. And, you know, it's just little things like that. Or when you stop and you look at an old picture and you're like, damn, man, like, I'm the product. I'm the, you know, like, I'm the treasure. Let me start treating myself like you're going to get a hand detailed car wash to take care of a machine, but your body's a machine and you fill it with Doritos. You know, I just started thinking about this stuff, and I was listening to lectures on the Fiat food by Saifedean, and I'm just like connecting all this stuff. You know, like all these Bitcoin books, they go into how fiat currency like kind of like undermines society, and thank God for Bitcoin kind of talks about how fiat currency undermines Christian values, things like that. And you start realizing how all these things are connected, and you're just like a pawn or a puppet in like this bigger game, you know? So when someone's like, yeah, actually we recommend that you eat majority grains and meat is bad for you, just stuff like that, right? And then you go to do your research and you realize like, man, this is not true. And actually they don't have our best interest at heart. The same thing with Bitcoin, right? Like if someone had your best interest in heart, they would say, hey, you probably should store your money in something that other people can't manipulate. But they don't have your best interest at heart. So they say, hey, give me your money. The market is too unpredictable. I'll manage your money. We'll be well diversified, just so they can get the fee from you. You know what I mean? So I started just drawing the parallels. But Saifedean's Fiat Foods lecture, I would like listen to that or listen to some of his books and stuff. And I'm like, man, I never even realized like we're literally just someone else's pawn. You know, the same thing happens in the financial world.
It's crazy. For the last part of the podcast, we're gonna get your future Bitcoin not prediction, but like how you kind of see what's where we're going from here. We've started in the beginning where like there's all those great people already in Bitcoin. We're starting to see now treasury companies like coming into Bitcoin. We have the president. We have small nations like Luxembourg and I think Kazakhstan now like getting into Bitcoin and all of that. Where do you think we're going from here? What are you kind of like expecting from Bitcoin next? It feels like we've achieved already so much.
One, financially, I think the price is going much higher. Two, I think it's going to invite bad actors eventually, right? So I think we're going to get some bad actors. Same way, kind of like the last Bitcoin run, you have the whole FTX thing. I would imagine something like that happens on a much bigger scale. Eventually, maybe it's 10 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, who knows? But I think what's going to happen is the fiat maxis are going to find a way to maximize their fiat by pretending to be Bitcoiners. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners are going to get caught in that because there's a natural clash between money that cannot be manipulated and the money that can, right? So if people are like, let's say ETFs, for example, the same people who did not want to touch Bitcoin realize that they can make billions of dollars in fees if they just offer it, right? So I think there's going to be more and more games that come, you know, as the price goes higher and higher and higher. So I expect the price to go higher, but I expect fiat games to start trying to blend with Bitcoin, you know? And the thing that I would caution people about is not getting caught in that, you know, not getting caught in too many of these games, you know. So as countries come on board, as other corporations come on board, let them play the games and buy the Bitcoin and take your stack higher, right? But don't go try to get their product, right? Like I started to dabble into the treasury thing, and I'm like, you know what? Nothing's going to beat me having Bitcoin in cold storage. Now, if these companies come on board and they start buying Bitcoin, it sends the price up, so I benefit. But why do I need a faster horse? Now I'm taking on the risks that are associated with playing these fiat games. So I left that stuff alone, and I'm like, I think it's going to get even bigger. I think it's going to be like, okay, what if X country becomes the largest holder of Bitcoin out of all the governments, and then they decide to sink it one day? You know what I mean? Like, because I think that people will realize there's an opportunity in Bitcoin, but I also think that they'll realize that opportunity is creating more dollars, right? So if you're a Bitcoiner, you see, hey, I'm going to use my fiat to get more Bitcoin. But the fiat people, maxis, they see it as we can use Bitcoin to get more fiat. And I caution people to not play those games. Don't look at it like I'm going to use more fiat currency, or don't look at it like I'm going to use more Bitcoin to get more fiat. No, you need more Bitcoin. So every time I talk to you, every time I come and you invite me on this podcast, best believe I'll have more Bitcoin than I did the last time. I can't tell you if I'll have more dollars than I had the last time, because that is all depending on the price of the Bitcoin, right? But I'll have more Bitcoin. So for you guys watching this, you start at 0.001 and then you move your way up to 0.002, 0.003, and don't go below that. That's your baseline now. So every time that you guys watch one of his podcasts, or every time you guys watch anybody's podcast, just know, hey, I have more Bitcoin than I did last time. With the fiat conversion prices, does not matter. I have more Bitcoin than I did last time.
I love that. It's like getting to a little bit more Satoshis each month, and a little bit more Satoshis each month. And then year over year, getting to have like a little bit of a bigger stack. And that security will get bigger from a perspective of purchasing power automatically. And then you can just like save a little bit in Bitcoin and you're good to go. And I think, and as you mentioned before, like the priorities is really important, because I think, if you now get as many as possible, this will not, like, this thing can run away very quickly. I think Parker Lewis was 2 times on the podcast and he talked about that, gradually then suddenly concept. And there could be a period of time, maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 years, where we enter a very aggressive suddenly time and you're like, oh, I wanted to get to a Bitcoin, but I only got to 0.02 Bitcoin because like I went aggressive enough, or I only had like 0.2 Bitcoin. Like, I think a lot of people will be missing out, and a lot of people will look back with regret, saying like, oh, I could have done so much more to get Satoshis, and why didn't I do more?
Yep, I completely agree with that. I think at some point there's going to be a point. Don't know if it's a $20,000 candle to the upside. I don't know if it's a $50,000 candle. I don't know if it's a $100,000 week. I don't know when it's going to be, but at some point, it's almost like your Bitcoin stack is going to be a screenshot, right? Meaning that's all. Like that, not completely that's all, because obviously, you can always stack Satoshis, but for you to move from 1 Bitcoin to 2 Bitcoin is going to be nearly impossible. Or for you to move from 1 Bitcoin to 1.3 Bitcoin is going to be like 0.3 Bitcoin is 300 grand, bro. You know what I mean? So like you send the blitz now, you send it now. Like you got to go, because when we go vertical, when we hit that suddenly phase, it's going to be like you take a screenshot, like you're frozen in time. Whatever Bitcoin you have is all you're going to have for the most part, unless you spend it. So you gotta go now. You have to send a blitz.
I've been in Bitcoin now for a little over 5 years, and it's so funny when you say that, because in the beginning, when you start to accumulate, you're like, oh, I get so many more, so many more, so many more, and then all of a sudden, you come down and you come down, and now it's like, the amount of Bitcoin almost doesn't change month over month, exactly. And even year over year, it's like almost the same.
Bro, it's me and my good friend, we talk about this all the time. Like all the time. I'm like, bro, I've had an amazing month in fiat, and then when I go convert that to Bitcoin, you're like, barely moved the needle, because it's getting way more expensive. But 3 years ago, I would have bought 5 Bitcoin this week, and I'm buying point something, So it's getting harder and harder and harder. And what I would say is your heart wants Bitcoin to go up, right? Your brain knows it's going up, but your pockets need it to stay where it's at or even fall. Like you don't, like everyone's like, yeah, Bitcoin to $1 million. Do you have enough Bitcoin to celebrate when it gets to $1 million? When it gets to $5 million, you get what I'm saying? Like, bro, you financially, you need Bitcoin to either trade sideways or fall a little bit. And someone's made this comment. It always sticks out to me. Like I think it was maybe on my YouTube or something like that. And they were saying, oh, what a coincidence that Bitcoiners always have like a positive outcome. Because if Bitcoin goes up, you say, I told you. And if Bitcoin goes down, you say, oh, now it's cheaper. I said, that's exactly the point, bro. That's exactly the point. When it goes down, your eyes should light up because you're like, your pockets need it. Like your heart's like, no, go up. And your brain's like, no, it's going to go up eventually, but your pockets need Bitcoin to sell off, man. So for you guys watching this, please like send the blitz, like go get as much as possible.
And I started earning in Bitcoin because mostly I work with Bitcoin companies and everything is denominated in US dollars or euros, but it's paid in Bitcoin. It's really funny because you actually get paid more in Satoshis when the price goes down, obviously, because then the exchange rate is better for you. And I have this amazing feeling of like when the price crashes and then there's some income coming in and you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
and then like later it shoots up. Like it's an amazing feeling.
Yep, exactly, man. So you guys, when the fiat price of Bitcoin goes down, your eyes should light up like a little kid in a candy store in the ice cream shop. Like, oh my goodness, I'm buying fragments of freedom for cheaper.
100%. Last, before we get to the end routines, do you see any bigger wealth mistakes outside of the like being distracted from treasury companies or maybe like trading fancy, that Bitcoiners are kind of making? Anything that you're seeing that even like, maybe the Bitcoin maxis that are like really just DCA and like, having Bitcoin that you're like, okay, they could improve on like, on a wealth aspect there?
Leverage, right? As a lot more Bitcoin companies start, allowing people to use leverage, people are getting greedy with that. Especially, I seen an article, I think it was posted from Reddit. This guy's been stacking Bitcoin for like 12 years and then he got wiped out trying to be greedy, And you're like, damn, you just undid 12 years of your life. So I think that's like one of the big things is and this is what I was saying earlier, these companies are going to come and play fiat games. Now, it's not gonna look like, hey, Chase is allowing you to borrow against your Bitcoin, right? It might look like that, but it more so might look like Chase partnered with a Bitcoin only company. Now, the Bitcoin only company allows you to borrow against your Bitcoin. So you're thinking, I'm a Bitcoiner, I'm going to use this Bitcoin only company, but in reality, they're playing fiat games, So that's one of the main things I want Bitcoiners to stay away from is like not to not use your Bitcoin as collateral for things, because I have, but it's don't get greedy with that stuff. Like, don't get greedy with your stack. Know where your liquidation price is. Like, don't go try to borrow 80% against your Bitcoin because then, a few percentage to the downside, you're wiped out. Like we've seen the biggest liquidation event in Bitcoin's history just happen on Friday, and a lot of people lost a lot of wealth because they were being greedy. So that's one thing that Bitcoiners should stay away from. Another thing too is, hold on, let me put my computer on the charger. It might die on you. Another thing that I think is like very important is some people are using, let's say, stocks or dividend stocks or whatever, trading, like they're speculating, thinking, oh, if this is right, I'll get more Bitcoin. But in reality is, no matter what it is that you want, you can get more of it if you stack in Bitcoin, right? So if you want more dividend paying stocks will get you more Bitcoin. I mean, more Bitcoin will get you more dividend paying stocks, but the opposite is not true. You storing your money in dividend paying stocks and then taking that dividend payout and buying Bitcoin, you're buying less Bitcoin every time, right? So whatever it is that you want, go that way. Whatever it is that you want, or whatever it is that you deem valuable, you start by measuring it against Bitcoin, right? And then you'll start to realize like, hey, don't argue with the math. The math is there. Bitcoin is here to lead you to freedom and to lead you to where you want to go, your own personal goals, your family goals, whatever. And anything that it can't beat, let's say a 30% return every year in a very safe manner, just put in Bitcoin. Don't get sidetracked by anything else.
I think it's a new hurdle rate, and like once you realize that, you're like, oh yeah, like I just have Bitcoin, and when it doesn't make a huge difference, like it doesn't go up tremendously. Like for example, if I start my own business, like obviously there's some benefits there, or like some other things that you're like, oh, this definitely will outperform Bitcoin, or like there's a high chance of outperforming Bitcoin. Like, don't do it. Like, if you don't think that it might actually return 50, 60, 70% per year, and you're fairly sure about that, like it's the new hurdle rate. Makes life different for investors, I guess. We have one question I asked each and every one of my guests. The question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Sorry, my laptop died.
No worries.
Okay, cool. I don't know how that's gonna play out, but my bad, my laptop.
We just have the end routine, so like it's just like maybe 5 or maybe 10 minutes or something like that, and it's perfectly fine. I already asked the question, but I think you haven't heard it because like the thing crashed down. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Of the West, very tied into world, right? So what I've been learning about is like, we'll see doctors that will give you a better solution to your problem than others. That your health and everything is kind of tied to your wealth, right? So then you start, well, there's some doctors that will only prescribe what your insurance allows, and there's some doctors that actually will just go directly to you, and if you solve their problems, and you pay them. So I start realizing like, wow, even having access to better healthcare providers changes your life. Right. So I just started like to that's like a cool rabbit hole to start looking into about the healthcare sector. That's kind of the main thing that I've been on outside. It's Bitcoin that allows me to, go research these things.
Yeah, it gives you the time to actually go ahead and say like, because it takes time to
so
go
outside of Bitcoin, that's
daily into the gym and work out. It takes time to figure out, okay, what's the best diet? Maybe you want to like order it in, or like you want to freshly cook it, or like whatever you want to do. Like it takes time and resources to actually take care of health. And then on top of that, of course, like the best doctors, like wealth and health is like extremely correlated, and like both are extremely important
in our lifetime.
And you have to take care of that. Like I think this is something that the sooner you realize that,
so I might
the better it is. Like better realize it with like 30 before you cannot fix a lot of things when you're 70.
Obvious at one point, it's like, imagine if somebody came to you and tried to pay you in like actually I don't want that, like, well, not copper, anything like, hey, I'm going to pay you in leaves.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.